Hi there and welcome back to Hickory Art Co. Today we are going to alter this little golden book. We are going to be able to preserve the gold spine, and we are going to add a spine that is about 1.5 inches that will accommodate 2 signatures. And we're going to go through all of that step by step. You can do this along with me if you want. You will just have to pause the video from time to time and then jump back in when you're ready to join me. So first, we'll just talk a little bit about some things that you will need to gather to be able to do this project. Of course, you will need a little golden book. It does not have to be this one. It doesn't have to be a Christmas one. It could be whatever book that you are wanting to alter. You need a wet glue. I'm using this Beacon 3-in-1 glue. It is by the same people that make the Fabri-Tac. I just got that at Michael's. Whatever wet glue is your favorite, you can of course do that. You will need a ruler and a pencil. You will need some type of material that will go on the inside and then on the spine as well. You will need some kind of tape. I have this Tyvek tape. You can use any strong tape that you have. This is a little expensive. You could use packing tape also. You are going to need some cardboard. We're going to cut into strips. For part of it, I'm just going to use this cardboard that was off the back of like a spiral bound notebook, like a college ruled notebook. We are going to be cutting that into strips and gluing 2 pieces together just to make it a little bit sturdier. And then for the actual spine, you're going to want something that's a little bit sturdier than that. So you can use chipboard, or this is just off the back of a sketch pad. It's just the back part. So it is a good bit heavier than what I said was off the back of a college bound notebook. You could also use a cereal box, would be fine too, but you will need to glue 2 layers of that together as well, just to make that a little bit sturdier. You will need, if you want to preserve the gold spine, you will need a heat tool or a heat gun or a hair dryer. This I have had forever and it was handed down to me, so I do not know if they even make this one. You will need something to cut the cardboard with, so either a trimming tool or if you have a utility knife or some type of a craft knife. For the thinner cereal box, you can probably get away with just using a scissors. You'll need some type of pliers to get the staples out when we get to that point. And then you'll need some kind of little prying tool when we do the removal of the gold spine. This is just from a nail kit. You can also, if you have like a pokey tool from the Cricut, you can use something like that also. At one point, you're going to need some binder clips. All right, let me get some of this out of the way and we'll get busy with the first step. Okay, for this first part, to get this golden spine off in one piece, you're going to need the heat gun or the hair dryer, and then just some kind of little tool to pry that off as the adhesive behind it starts to melt. So I'm going to do a little bit of it on camera just to show you what I'm doing, but the noise is going to be loud, so I'm not going to put you through doing the entire spine, but I will get us started here so you can see what I'm doing. If the golden spine on your book is really beat up and already torn in a lot of places, you could try this and see how badly it comes off. You may still be able to piece it back together then. So before I call it destroyed, I would go ahead and just give it a try and see what happens. Going to try to zoom you in here. Sorry if it shakes the camera a little bit. Okay, so I've been holding the heat on here so you can see I'm able to get the tool underneath here now and begin to pry some of that away from the book. And then as you're doing this, don't touch the metal part of your pokey tool because it'll be extremely hot. So you just do this and work your way up the spine. You can see it's starting to let go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. Okay, we'll just jump back in here right at the end as I'm about to get the last of it off. Okay. So as you can see, that came off in one piece. Word of warning, I was using this and the heat gun was too hot for this and it let go from inside there. So if you are using something with a plastic handle, you want to keep that in mind. Okay, so we got this off. We are going to put this to the side for the moment because we do not need it for a little while. And I also, while you're zoomed in here, I wanted to show you sometimes some of the golden books have, there's like a lamination on them that starts to come off. I don't know if you can see it. This has glue stuck on the end of it, but there's like a clear coating that begins to peel and chip off, and it's lifting. So I found that if you take the heat gun and just apply that for a little while, that it just kind of melts it back onto the book. The next thing I like to do is just take a baby wipe or a slightly damp paper towel and just go over the book a little bit just to get the years of grime off of it. And just do that just lightly. You can even do it in here and just make sure that your cloth isn't too wet. All right, and then the other thing I like to do is just check around and see if there's any damage that needs repaired. Like this is peeling apart into layers, so I will stick some dabs of glue down in those, even though I may put corner protectors on, although on this side it may cover up the H on the root off, which I don't know that I'm going to want to do that. So I'm definitely going to go run some glue along the sides of here, and for that I will use the wet glue. Okay, so I went around and put a little bit of glue on each of the corners to repair those and anchored it down with the binder clips. So while that's drying, I'm going to work on getting the staples out of here. Each golden book has 2 staples, and we're going to work from the back and just pry up the ends and work on getting those out. Sometimes they go pretty easy. Sometimes they're rusted and don't want to cooperate at all. So I usually try to get something in underneath there to get them started. And I have, this is like from a jewelry making. Oh, this might not be too bad here on that one. You can get it started and underneath here. There we go. And then I'll just straighten them out with this. And then we'll go down and see if we can get the other one. I'm just trying to get it under there enough that I can then get a hold of it with the pliers and straighten out the ends. Okay, now we're going to open it up and see if we can pull those away. This is just a little, my scraper I use all the time that I have picked up at the dollar store. It just helps to get in there and get that pulled away. So we have that one separated. You do have to be careful with those rusty staples sticking up. Let's find the middle. Okay, and there's one signature out. Okay. Now we'll try to get the rest of that. You can, if it looks like it's going to cooperate, you can just move right to the front of the book and try and pull the staples out through all of the pages. I don't usually have a whole lot of success in doing it that way. Okay, and then just make sure you get rid of those right away. Okay, so what you will end up with is 4 parts. You have the front cover, the back cover, and you have 2 signatures. A signature just means a grouping of papers. So when the little golden books were made, there were 2 signatures put in and stapled into the covers. And the signatures are made up of 1, 2, 3 sheets of paper that were printed on 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So they're run through machines like this and then cut. But when you hear someone talk about a signature, it is just a grouping of papers that are inserted in the book together. So this book was 24 pages with 2 signatures. At this point, you can number the pages if you want. At some point, we are going to be inserting other signatures or other papers into this signature. So if you are meaning to keep the book and the story intact, then now is the time to go ahead and just use a pencil and very lightly just mark 1, and I already put a little tiny 2 down here, 3, 4, etc. the whole way through. I won't make you sit and watch me do that, but you will want to do that. You can do it 1 the whole way to the end, or you can number this signature and then start over with 1 and number this signature. And then once that's done, you can put the signatures to the side because we will not need those for a little while. Then I'm going to take the binder clips off of my corners, so this is easier to handle. And you want to make sure you have your book laid out this way. So your front cover is facing down, and then the back cover is facing down also. And now you want to just look again to see if there's any damage anywhere. This one does have a little bit right here, but we are going to be covering that up. So what the next process is, I'll explain it to you before we go ahead and do it. I don't like to have to cut down my signature pages. I like to be able to keep them. And some of the stories, when you cut them down, you're going to lose, definitely lose some of the graphics, but in some of the little golden books, you end up losing some words. So I don't like to do that if I don't have to. So what we're going to do is we are going to preserve everything that's here, and we are going to take strips of cardboard, and where this folds right here, we are going to adhere that cardboard to that area and again on this side so that that won't move anymore. And then we are going to build a spine right here. So this whole thing becomes your cover, and instead of it bending like this, it's going to bend out here at this hinge on the spine that we create. So we need to next get our cardboard ready. So the first thing you're going to need is the 2 strips for either side of the spine that gets adhered directly to the covers that are here. So you're going to use 1-inch strips. If you're using the really thin cardboard like I have here, like from a cereal box, or this is off the back of that notebook, then you're going to need 4 strips because you're going to glue 2 on top of each other. So if you're using heavier cardboard for this part of the book, then you can just go ahead and use it as is. If you're using the thinner cardboard, you will need 4 strips cut that are 1 inch wide so that you can glue 2 and 2 together. Then for length, you are going to have to measure your individual book. They are usually all just like shy of 8 inches, but just double check yours. Do not go off of my measurements. This one is measuring about 7 7/8, so we'll go with that. But like I said, don't go and cut yours that length just because I did. Go ahead and measure, please. So you're going to need 1 inch wide strips by the length, height of your book. If you're using thin cardboard, you need 4. If you're using heavy cardboard, you only need 2. I'm going to go ahead and cut those, and I'll be back and show you what I have. I am cutting my 4th strip. I chose to use the ruler and a knife. If your cardboard is thin enough and you want to use scissors, you can do that. You can try a paper cutter. If you're doing it this way, just know that, like, in your mind, think several light cuts. Don't think that you're going to slice and be right through at the first attempt. Know that it's going to take several to get down through. There we go. Okay. So I now have 4 thin strips of the cardboard. And I'm going to glue 2 together and 2 together, and they're going to go here. I need to cut the length yet then too. So I will go ahead and do that and be back with you. To glue, I am going to use the wet glue, not the glue stick. This will create a better bond. Okay, I have those glued together and they are drying with some binder clips. I'm going to put those to the side for right now and get my heavier board that I need for the spine and let these dry for a minute. So we're going to cut this 1.5 inches. If you want to make it larger than that, you can. If you think you're going to add a lot of signatures in there and want a wider spine, you can make this board wider than the 1.5 inches. But I'm going to stick with 1.5 inches, and I'm going to cut it down to the same height as the book. And this, again, is the harder, this was the back of the sketch pad, or if you have chipboard, I would not use the cereal box paper for the actual spine. All right, so we're gonna get this cut to 1.5 inches by 7 7/8, but that's the measurements for my book. It may be a little bit different for your book. So let's go ahead and get that cut. Okay, so I got it cut to 1.5 inches wide, and now I want to cut it so it is the same height as my book. And for this thicker cardboard, I did not use the craft knife like I had used for the earlier one. I switched over to my utility knife. You can use whichever works best for you. And again, oops, that didn't work. Get it lined up here. But again, I'm just taking several smaller or lighter passes. Don't go into it thinking you're going to cut right down through with one big heavy stroke. Just know that you're going through several layers and it'll get there. Okay, so I have this the same height as my book. I don't need to do anything extra to that. The next thing we're going to do is cut our gold strip in half. So move this stuff out of the way. These measure about 1 inch wide. So we are going to cut that in half. And you do want to take notice, they usually are directional. So you can see this has a hen, grasshopper, some bees. So when you go to glue it back onto the book, you want to make sure you have them going in the right direction. All right. Like I said, when they're really old and fragile, you may end up having a couple of different pieces of it, which is okay. You can glue it back together then directly onto the cover. Okay. All right, so like I said, you're going to make sure you have them going the right direction as far as up and down. And we are going to glue a strip of it onto the front and a strip of it onto the back cover. All right, I'm going to start, and I use the wet glue for this too because it, I think it adheres a little bit better. And I'm not going to try and get it where this fold is because we're not going to have that fold anymore. That's going to have a piece of support behind it, but I definitely want to cover up the white area. So I'm going to make sure that I do that. And again, making sure that you have the little critters that are on there going in the right direction. Okay, so. You can put as much or as little on it as you want. I do like it to wrap over the edge a little bit. Oops. Sorry, I'm off camera. I'm putting it right down along that edge too. And then we're going to fold it over. And just check and see if you have it pretty much straight. And we're going to put some binder clips along the way. All right, and don't worry too much about it. It's not going to look perfect because it wasn't, if you haven't started with a really old book, it wasn't perfect when you took it off. So just get it on there the best that you can. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other one, and then I will be right back. All right, taking the binder clips off now. That is dry, and we got it on this side also. And what I was saying about not worrying if it's real neat or not, you can see that this end is not, and neither is this end. That's just how it came off of the old book. I don't think I mentioned when we started either. This is from 1973, so this is an old one, and the pages are discolored, and the gold binding was not in perfect condition, which is just fine. All right, so what we're going to do now is work on getting this spine in here. And you want to make sure that you have the covers in the right position and that they're not upside down. So take care in laying them out. So when you're working on this part, you want the part that says this little golden book belongs to on the left-hand side. And we're going to line these up just to get an idea. They're just going to be a hair apart. You don't want them butted right up against each other, but they are just going to be just a tiny bit apart when we get to that point. So I'm just kind of making sure everything lines up as far as the height that I cut that piece of cardboard. So I want to next put on the fabric that is going to be on the outside of my spine. So if this book was closed and this was this spine was hooked on here, we want to adhere the fabric that is going to be out here. So I am going to use this piece of, it's just a piece of muslin that I made look old. You can tea dye or coffee dye, or just take your distress inks and a dauber and go over it. And then I just stamped Merry Christmas on it. So we are going to use a chunk of this, and I want it to cover this and then also wrap up over onto the sides a little bit. So I'm going to measure about where this fold is. Again, lining them up just so there's just a tiny crack between there, and doesn't have to be exact for this part. I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it about maybe 2 3/4 of an inch. So let's do it this way. Okay, so now I have this piece. And this is going to get glued onto here. And to do that, I think I'm going to use wet glue. You could probably use a glue stick as well, or whatever you have. I am going to use this glue, but I am going to spread it out and not leave it in the puddles that I'm putting down here. You can use a paintbrush to do this if you don't want to get your hand messy, but I don't want the bumpy glue showing through the fabric, so I am going to just smear this and smooth it out a little bit. Make sure I got it along the edges. Then I have the side that I want is facing down. That's the side that will be out on the outer part of the spine. And I did not put it exactly in the middle. You certainly can, but I wanted to make sure that I got some of the Merry Christmas on, so I didn't want to move it over this way a whole lot further. So we'll do that. And wipe my hand off here. Okay, so this is what the spine will look like when the book is finished being put together. And I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter, but not completely for right now, because I may want to let some of that hang over. I'm not sure yet. And then I will fringe it. All right, when you have it lined up, then you want to take some more of the wet glue and glue the flap from that fabric down. I have a piece of Scotch tape here I need to remove that was holding everything in place. This part I don't worry about smoothing out the glue, because it's all going to end up being hidden. So make sure you have that close, but not completely tight up against. Let that dry for a minute. And then we'll do the other side. Just leaving a little crack there. Okay. Everything looks good and straight. Let that set up for a minute. So now I have my support strip that I'm going to glue on. You want to get it right at the edge, but again, not overlapping, because you don't want it to interfere with the book opening and closing, but you do want it to keep the book from bending right here. So we need to put this support strip right in there. So you're going at the edge of the cover and over that crease. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other one. And I will do that and be right back with you. And I'll just go ahead and put the last one on here. I have my wet glue on. I can see the edge of this cover right through there. I want to get it at the edge of that, still leaving that little gap in here. And it's going over that fold or that crease that's in the cover. We want that to stop bending right there. This one's already glued down. Give that a second to dry. All right, then we're going to go ahead and put the Tyvek tape. If you don't have this, you can use packing tape. This is used in construction. It's Tyvek. So to use the Tyvek tape, I like to turn my my book sideways here. It's a little easier, especially if I'm trying to do it on camera. And I'm going to use 3 pieces. I'm going to put one piece that's covering on either side of this support strip, another piece on this side to cover this support strip, and then a third down the middle. Sorry for the noise. Increase that good. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Coming right to the top, making sure that it's on both sides of that it comes down off of that support on both sides. Increase it good. Even get your scraper tool. And this piece I'm coming right down the middle with. Oh my goodness. And again, making sure that's smoothed out well. Okay, so now we have a book that bends here and here instead of on these folds. So it's no longer bending here like it had before, but you have this nice spine right here. Okay, and here's what the edge looks like. Not sure yet if I'm going to trim those or not. We'll see. I'm just going to let them go for now. So now at this point, I usually stop messing with the spine, just so everything can just dry and set up. And I like to kind of train the book in the way that it's going to be opening and closing. So I will put some binder clips on for it to dry in the right position, like that. How the spine will look, and eventually the signatures will be poked through that. The thread for the signatures will be poked through that, and you will see the threads down here. And if you don't like that, you can always put a second piece of fabric there and cover that up. But this is where we're going to stop for part 1. And when we come back, we will be putting a piece of fabric here to cover up this mess. And then we will work on adding signature pages to adding signature pages to the signatures that we took out of the book. And then we will learn the 3-hole pamphlet stitch and get those put in here through the spine. All right, I will have part 2 up as soon as I can. If you hit that bell for the notification button to subscribe to my channel, you will be notified when part 2 is available. And that's when we will add the signature pages and do that 3-hole pamphlet stitch. Thanks for spending part of your day with me.